I am here with Ron Leshem and Hagar Ben Asher, and we are here to talk about Bad Boy, the new show. And I got the first two episodes yesterday, and I was hooked, and I was very upset at the end of the second episode because I just wanted more. So I guess my first question for you guys would be, what made you want to tell Dean's story?
I think it's one of these stories that you want to tell for 20 years and every executive tells you, no way, you cannot do this show. No one would watch. But then suddenly there is something, a miracle happens and you realize something and everything changes. And it started, I was a journalist and I locked myself in this juvie prison for a magazine story. But it kept hunting me for years. I really wanted to tell the story, but I didn't know how, because you most likely don't want to do an Oz with just kids. It's too dark, but we didn't know what angle to use. And even the first time we pitched Euphoria 12 years ago, and again, everyone was saying no for many years for Euphoria. But with the first time we pitched Euphoria, it was a juvenile jail show, and then it was a lead character who was born to a mother who's prisoner, but it felt like the executive were saying that audience is not ready for this. But a few years later, when we kept knowing that it will happen someday, but a few years later, our producer told us, do you know that when you were a journalist, there was a kid there who is now a very successful stand-up comedian? And I didn't know because he changed his name and he's hiding this background. But suddenly it felt, okay, that's the cinematic tool that we were always looking for. The point of view of someone who comes with a humor to jail, and even jail makes him a comedian.
It's a thing for people making jokes to deal with their trauma. So there were a few, you talk about doing the scenes with the kids, and they are very heartbreaking scenes. I was sitting watching it on my computer and I'm like, oh no, what's happening? How tough was that for you guys to film that? Because it was hard just for me to watch it. So I can imagine that it was really hard for you guys to actually have to watch that happen.
Yeah, I think we casted boldly. Okay, with kids, it's very different. Casting and directing kids is a whole different profession than directing and casting adults, because you need to, maybe it's like that with adults as well, but you need to cast somebody who is basically the guy. And you know that you will not transform a child to be a character. You need to cast just the person himself. And both Guy and Avtamo, the guy who's playing Zora and the guy who's playing Dean, they are simply the characters. And which means that the guy, the boy who's playing Dean, is basically a badass motherfucker, and he can take a lot on his shoulders, and he sees life through humor, and he can pretty much take upon everything. Our relationship was like a roller coaster, and I was his mom, I was his kindergarten teacher, I was his friend, I was everything to him, and he was everything to me. And I think that pretty much allowed us to put him in every situation, because there was such a strong mutual trust between us that he just poured himself into every situation. Because when you direct kids, you don't tell them you're sad now or you're seeing something horrible. You just need to create the situation for them to be in. If you tell a kid to be sad, so he will do this, right? And you don't want that on screen. So you need to always create a situation that makes him feel what you need him to feel. When we were dealing with harsh scenes, I would pretty much make him feel like shit, but he would allow that. And I think that pretty much he really put himself in there, and with full faith and full trust, and that's the basics of it, I would say.
It's so heartbreaking to to watch it because you can't imagine a kid going through something like that, and then to actually see it happening right in front of your face, you're like, oh, and then you get the kicker that it's based on a true story, and you're like, wow, someone actually had to live through this, and that's like the worst part of it. But he decided, you know what, I'm gonna take my trauma and make it funny. So then he got out of that. I would assume that he got out of his bad repetitive cycle and decided to change his tune when he got out of the juvenile detention center.
Yeah.
So what was it like trying to get the actors who play Dean and Zorro to, because they're like the unlikely duo, they're unlikely friends. So how was it to get them to come together and build that friendship, not even just on the screen, but off the screen as well?
I think that the answer lies in your question, because something very strange happened on this set that never happened to me before on any other set, is that what we wrote in the scripts actually happened behind the scenes. Everybody who were rivals in the scripts, that's what happened on the set. They didn't like each other. They were against each other. It was very funny to see. And luckily, or not luckily, I don't know, Guy and Avtamo, in many ways, they became so close to the extent in which if Avtamo would be 5 minutes late to set, Guy would be nervous, looking for him. He didn't want to shoot anything. He didn't want to do anything. He got obsessed about Avtamo, who's playing Zorro. And they became so close to puppies. It was very heart-moving to see. And they just arrived yesterday to TIFF together. Mm-hmm. And I'm very actually curious to see what's going to be with them. We finished shooting 4 or 5 months ago, something like that. I'm very curious to see how they reunite and what's that gonna bring. Maybe we should shoot this, huh? Yeah.
I'd definitely be looking for some Instagram reels of them being together at TIFF. I think that would be awesome. And so I did see in the second episode that Freddie calls, and I know that Freddie is one of the kids who's also in the juvenile detention center. So are we going to see more of Freddie as the series goes on?
Yeah. But we're not going to tell you.
But it's real life. It also so the guy is a successful comedian, and as he becomes a successful comedian in real life, people who notices and say he changed his name, but that's a guy who was with me our entire childhood or teenage years, and they come to his shows and they knock on his door and they send him text messages. Some of them are huge criminals now. Some of them are just miserable, traumatized kids, but they're coming back and saying, we were friends and you just left us when you were 18, you just left us behind and were able to reinvent yourself. And it's part of the story.
When his assistant said, Freddie's on the phone, I was like, he still keeps in touch with Freddie? Why is Freddie calling? What's going on? And then the last scene of the second episode, which is that big decision that he's going to have to make of whether or not to, I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, but he has to make this big decision. And I was laying up last night thinking about it. I was like, oh my God. I was like, is he going to do it? I just can't imagine if he would do it, because Zorro is saving his life as of this point in time. Because if he was out there by himself, like, he probably would be in the same space as his friend who got hurt in the first episode. Right. So it was just you guys did a great job with the cliffhangers. I just kept wanting to watch more.
Good.
I know that we're going to see more of what goes on with Dean as his life goes on. Are we maybe going to get to see more of his relationship with his mother? Are we going to ever get to see his grandmother? Because it seems like him and his grandmother have a really deep bond, because he calls her before he even calls his mother. when he gets sent to juvie. So are we ever going to get to meet his grandma? Because she seems like such a nice lady.
We will meet her. And yeah, you're a really good viewer, right? I mean, yeah, I wish everybody would just like get everything like you do. Our lives would be so much easier if you were just the audience. Yeah, so we will meet her, and let's say, the study of the relationship with the mother keeps going very intensely throughout the series.
Yeah,
Okay.
what's important for us,
Yeah.
the relationship with the mother.
Yeah.
Because it's a very love-hate is what it seems like. Like, she loves him 1 minute, but then she's calling the police on him the next minute, which, I mean, if my son did what he did, I probably would also call the police. But it just seems like she wants to put herself above him, like above raising him and making him a good person. And she goes back and forth between no, he deserves to be in juvie, but also, no, he needs his clothes and I need to talk to him and I miss him. Like, it's a really weird dynamic, and I would love to watch, where's this series going to be streaming at?
I hope we'll know soon. We're waiting for a decision.
Oh, so how many episodes is it going to be?
For season 8.
I need HBO or somebody to pick this up immediately, because I have to know what happens, because I need to know how Dean went from a juvenile detainee to a stand-up comedian, and now all of these people are coming back into his life who you wouldn't expect. Like, when you go to a juvenile detention center, like, you have to make friends where you make friends, I would assume, but I wouldn't assume that he was still friends with them once he got out.
Yeah.
I had a very close relationship with my grandma when I was a kid, so seeing Dean call his grandma before he called his mother, but he just didn't have the heart to tell her, like, hey, grandma, I'm in, like, juvenile, and it doesn't seem like his mom wants her to know either.
Yeah.
So that's also an interesting dynamic. I would love to see his mom and his grandma. What's going on? Like, why are they like how they are, and why are Dean and his grandma like they are? That's what I would love to see in the next few episodes when it gets picked up, because I'm manifesting that for you guys.
Yeah, I think when you meet the mother, you're not sure if she's crazy and maybe she's overreacting or crazy, or do you really deserve this, and did she have no other choice? And the thing is, he's a deficit disorder, ADHD boy, and she didn't know how to handle it. But do you blame her or not? And I hope you'll be curious to figure out, did she have no choice and he deserved it?
Yeah, I'm definitely thinking about that. And now that I'm thinking about his mom, I'm also thinking about his dad, because we do get that scene where they're in the living room and he sets off the fire extinguisher. Is that guy his dad, or is that just like his mom's boyfriend? Okay, so are we going to hear more about his dad?
A bit. Yeah, a bit.
I want to know where Dean's dad is in this whole thing, and if we get to meet him.
We have another small beat that tells a bit of what's going on with him. And actually, yeah, maybe we'll add some more, but we haven't decided.
We're still in the editing
We're
room,
still-
so we've been talking a lot about the dad issue this week. So
Yeah.
story it is, it's his kind of obsession, because she didn't really tell him much about his dad, but she was telling him, oh, your dad tried to kill me, and your dad killed his ex-girlfriend. She fell from a balcony. She was the ballet dancer, and they all feel like, is she real, or is she like imagining stuff and she's crazy and you shouldn't trust her? But when she tells him, you're so much like your dad at one point, and that on the one hand it breaks his heart, that because he knows that she hates his dad, but at the same time it makes him want to meet his dad, and his dad doesn't want to see him. So
yeah.
For us, I think that mainly let's say that the discussion about his father is more of the discussion about his mom, and the way that she hides him and she ignores him and she doesn't want them to be in touch. We'll figure it out soon enough.
You definitely have a fan in me, and I had read the press release on it, but I didn't know that it was in Arabic. So that was a little surprising to me, but it
Mostly
Hebrew. Yeah. I saw in one of the subtitles it said speaks Arabic. So I was that's
because he's
yeah.
an Arab kid, but yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But I mean, it just, I don't know. It was just something about it. It just made it made me feel more for them because in some movies where they're filming in a different country or something like that, they only speak English, and that bothers me. I'm like, you're in your home country, you don't speak English all the time, so just speak your native language. And so I love that. I was like, yes, they're speaking Hebrew. I was like, I can read these subtitles. I love it. Thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with me. I look forward to seeing more episodes of Bad Boy, and I hope that it does well at TIFF.
Thank
Thanks
you
so
very
much.
much.